What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be answering one of your questions. That's right, this one comes from JK Train and it is about crosstalk. Now, before I read his question, let's actually discuss what is crosstalk, because obviously it's not something everyone has heard about. So crosstalk is essentially a language exchange where you are going to be, let's say, sitting down with someone else and you want to practice your language. Your language might be French, okay? You're a native English speaker. So you find a French-speaking partner and they speak French to you, and then you speak English back to them. Now, this assumes that both sides understand both languages. Maybe both sides want to practice both languages. Maybe only one side does. But essentially, you listen to your non-native language, and they speak to you in your target language, and also in vice versa. That's essentially crosstalk. Now, why might you want to do crosstalk? There could be a number of reasons. Maybe you're just not confident in speaking in the language just yet. Maybe you've got a really good understanding, which makes sense if you're coming from like an ALG background, the automatic language background. Or maybe it's just, you just want to have fun with the language and you don't want to put that extra stress of speaking on, and realistically, you don't care about speaking at this stage. There could be a number of reasons for why you would want to do this, okay? But we'll get into those in a second. So, hi Evildea, I joined in part to ask you what you think of crosstalk. I see you have some recent videos, I think only for joiners. So if you hit the join button down below and become a member of the channel, that opens up a ton more content, okay? You get content such as the crosstalk videos he's talking about here, where it's me playing games using crosstalk for Spanish. However, I just speak in Mandarin Chinese with my Mandarin Chinese videos and Esperanto my Esperanto videos. And then you also get a bunch of other things like daily vlogs where I basically show you how I live my life learning languages. But anyway, where you are cross-talking, but I haven't seen a video of what you think about it as a learning method. I've been learning Italian for 4 years, and the only method that has worked for me is Pimsleur, because I can listen and repeat on my bike while commuting. Everything else I've tried means I need to sit down and give it full attention. That just doesn't work for me. I also found I'm far more interested in language learning than learning a language. Appreciate your thoughts. Okay, this last comment right here, I reckon that's half of you guys out there. You guys probably watch a ton of videos about learning languages, but I ain't actually learning a language. You just like the idea. But let's talk about this, my thoughts on crosstalk. When I first discovered crosstalk was when I started my Dreaming Spanish series, which has been running for over a year now, okay? When I first heard about it, essentially, okay, I'm going to be learning Spanish, but I'm going to use this method called crosstalk where I speak English and my partner speaks Spanish to me. That just seemed like an absolute waste of time. Like that was my initial thoughts, and there's video record of me saying that on multiple instances. I was like, this just seems like a waste of time. Like if I'm gonna like speak with someone who knows the language, then I want to speak in the language. But that was coming from the perspective of someone who traditionally likes to keep all skills at the same level, okay? So you've got reading, you've got writing, you've got speaking, and you've got listening. You got like these 4 core skills, okay? And I always, historically, kind of upgrade all of them at the same time. So if my listening improves too much, then I want my speaking to catch up. And if my speaking gets a little bit too far ahead, then I want my listening to improve. The only core skills I never really cared about too much was writing, okay? Because I've never had a real need for it. But listening, speaking, I tried to keep them at a similar level. Now, when I started my Dreaming Spanish series, part of the method that was being utilized there was that for 1,000 hours, I would just listen. So there was no way for speaking to stay matched with basically with listening, okay? It was just never going to happen. It's not even part of the methodology. So obviously my speaking basically stayed non-existent. However, part of that method is the promotion of crosstalk. And again, when I was first hearing about this, I was like, it just seems like kind of like I can see some value in it, but like also it's a lot of effort. And then when I'm actually sitting down with someone who speaks Spanish, I want to be able to speak Spanish. Even if I don't speak Spanish, I wanted to at least try. And that's all due to how I've historically learned languages. But obviously this was a challenge. This was a series, so I had to give it a go eventually. Now, my first initial thoughts when doing this were, okay, you learn a bit more doing this than you do from just sitting there watching content passively, because obviously you can ask questions. So, you know, if like someone uses a word, you could say, hey, can you like rephrase that? Or could you even try to describe what that means in the language? Even though technically that's not part of that challenge, but these are things you can do, okay? But I still didn't see the value in it. Now, the value for me actually came when I started doing gaming with crosstalk, because at this moment, the value is less so all the words that I'm learning in context and I'm able to ask for, you know, clarification. No, it's actually about the fact that now I'm enjoying the language. So I get to like hear Spanish constantly, play a game, have fun using this language without obviously the stress of talking. I'm following a challenge where talking was not permitted, okay, for a very, very long time. So this was basically the best way for me to enjoy a language anyway. And as I did this more and more, I was like, okay, I see the value here. Basically, this is almost like a reward. You know, like I've been listening to Spanish all this time. Yeah, I get to watch movies and content in the language, but now I'm finally using, you know, the one skill I've been training constantly with a native. And I feel like there's more of a connection there. It's more real, this experience of learning Spanish for me, okay? You do learn more words via Crosstalk than you do by just passive or actively, whatever words you want to use, watching content. That's definitely going to be the case. However, that's only true in the context of a method where you're just learning from watching content. You're not actually trying to use other methodologies such as sentence mining, using Anki, grammar lookups, you know, even subtitles. Like if you brought all of that in with watching content, I'm pretty sure then that with watching content would be of more benefit than Crosstalk. But assuming you're just watching content and you're not doing any lookups or anything, Crosstalk is of more value, okay? You're going to get more bang for your buck out of it. Now, there is a downside to Crosstalk, and I've only kind of discovered this one recently when you do want to transition into speaking. So when you finally decide, okay, I'm going to actually speak this language, and you jump into a session where you're not quite good at the language yet, or you're basically nowhere in progression-wise, okay? You instantly start falling back on English because that's what you've been practicing all this time. You've been using English constantly while listening to the language. You've literally trained yourself at this point to just use English when you hear this other language. So you have to actively catch yourself and go, wait, no, I could use Spanish here. I know the words for this. Like, why am I just using English? So then you start forcing yourself to use Spanish, and then you're going to encounter those instances where you can't use Spanish because you're not good enough yet, or whatever language you're learning, and therefore you fall back on English. And once you fall back on English, you've gone back into this whole loop again where it's like now you have to pull yourself out of it, okay? It's very easy to get comfortable just using English when you could be using your target language. Like you literally know the words and structures and, you know, it's all comes to you, but you're used to English. Okay, so I would say there's big benefits to it depending on what you're doing, you know, the additional studying you're doing. But there is that big downside of it can become almost like a crux. So you have to, like I'm at this stage right now where in some videos of me doing Crosstalk, I'll speak Spanish 50% of the times, but sometimes I'm only speaking 10%. Okay, and it really depends on the game I'm playing and stuff like that. And I have to actively, while playing, go, bro, you could use words here. You know these words. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I do. Or even just ask for help from the person you're speaking with, okay? So yeah, it's an interesting method overall. Would I use Crosstalk if it was not in the context of that specific methodology, ALG, Automatic Language Growth? It's hard to say because, for example, let's say I was learning, I don't know, Russian, okay? And I'm learning some Russian and I find a gaming partner who's happy to game with me in Russian, but I can't speak Russian yet. I probably would. I'd probably use Crosstalk, but also I would be trying to use every instance of Russian that I know in that, you know, gaming session. It wouldn't be me intentionally staying within an English mind frame or like an English, environment because, you know, I don't want to mess up my language or anything. It would just be because I literally can't speak the other language yet. It wouldn't be an intentional process. So if you were to take away the methodology where Crosstalk was first introduced to me via, which was ALG, would I do Crosstalk? It wouldn't be intentional Crosstalk. It would be Crosstalk for so long as I am unable to say the words that I want to say. But there is another side to this, and that's the fact that if I never did this dreaming Spanish challenge and never heard about Crosstalk, I probably would have delayed my Russian speaking and playing with people until I actually got good enough where I could speak a little bit. Now that I am aware of Crosstalk and that I can use this, it probably will enable me to start speaking a lot earlier because I won't be tripped up in this mindset of I have to speak only the target language, and if I don't know, then I can't say anything. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it, I think, overall. I do want to talk a little bit about just the one last thing you mentioned here, which is you've been using Pimsleur and you like how there's the repeat aspect to it, and it's the only thing that seems to work for you. If that's the only thing that works for you, you might enjoy Rosetta Stone, which is another piece of software out there, which kind of works a little bit like Pimsleur, although there is no English to it, but it introduces in a similar way. Basically, what you're looking for is a direct method audio approach, okay? Or a natural approach. So that's pretty much it, and I'll see you all next video, and if you're not there, I will find you, and we will do crosstalk, but this time, I'll be speaking to you in Russian, and you don't speak the Russian, or maybe you do. Let me know down in the comment section if you speak Russian.